And now Storm Tracker weather with meteorologist Paul Beam.
Well, after a week that went from feet in snow in the mountains to clear and almost 40 here in Pocatello, we're going right back around to the colder temperatures, but luckily enough staying clear. Storm Tracker almost completely clear, making its way today. Of course, if you look to the south, you see very dwindling snow around the Montpelier and further south. And it's very isolated incidents, but as you zoom that out, you'll see where a lot of that moisture is coming from. A pretty strong atmospheric river going across Utah and Nevada right now, even into northern California, but it's starting to push out towards those other southern states, completely missing us, but it's going to take some time, but it is going to head north to us as well once we hit into the middle of the work week. But for now, it's actually looking pretty clear. The future tracker, as I move that forward, it is moving. It might not look that way, but for majority of the day staying clear, a small amount of isolated snow in the evening in both the Wyoming area as well as the central mountains, but it is extremely isolated and not expected to see any accumulation. So it will be a pretty calm night tonight into tomorrow, even into the day after. But once we get into the middle of the work week, that's where it starts to get a little hairier. We are going to see a little bit more snow make its way through, and we're not done with winter just yet, even though meteorological spring started yesterday. It didn't feel like it though. Temperatures were on the cold side. Starting tonight, we're still in the single digits if you're in Idaho Falls or St. Anthony. Further south, not as bad, but 18, 20 in Pocatello and American Falls, still on the cold side comparison to some of the temperatures we saw earlier this week. Over in the central mountains, isolated snow like I mentioned, and that's going to come back around for tomorrow night. But for the most part, sticking to those cold single digits or even in some cases negatives, with Leadore at -1, Stanley at -5, but for the most part sticking to an average around 5. Mackey pretty much the average for that region. Then finally for the highlands of western Wyoming, mostly cloudy, -1 in Island Park and a -4 in Yellowstone. So it is going to be another rough cold night, but they're not seeing that isolated snow until tomorrow. It's going to be mostly cloudy through tonight. Now taking a look over what we're expecting for Sunday, isolated snow for the highlands of western Wyoming. Not too bad on the coverage. For the most part, not accumulating anything. Temperatures still on the colder side, 23 in Island Park, 26 in Jackson, as opposed to those mid-30s we saw just a few days ago. And over in the central mountains, isolated snow as well, mainly in the evening, but it is out there. 28 in Chalice, 27 in Salmon. Once again, very little amounts and not going to accumulate much. And then finally for the Snake River Plain, the only one is avoiding that isolated snow with just partly cloudy conditions. 32 in Pocatello, so just barely getting up to freezing with almost everywhere else if you move towards Rexburg, St. Anthony, staying just below freezing. So it is going to be a little bit rough temperature-wise, but the roads will be nice. We'll get a nice break from the snow until it comes back around on the 7-day. Taking a look at that Southeast Idaho Chevy dealer 7-day, you'll notice it stays clear, stays cold until around Tuesday. Then that switch hits, it warms back up, and the rain and snow makes its way back in. Wednesday and Thursday both seeing a mix. Friday and Saturday with a chance dwindling, but for the most part, the days it's raining, the days it's snowing, that's when the warmest temperatures hit. You'll notice 47 on Wednesday, 45 on Thursday. Now over in the Idaho Falls region, we're leaning more towards the snowy side of things. Even though it is warmer, 42 degrees on Wednesday, 41 on Thursday. It's still on the snow side of territory, and then Friday and Saturday scattering out, but for the most part staying frozen. Then finally, for the over in the mountainous regions, Teton areas, a slight chance of that isolated snow. Wednesday, Thursday, the worst days, but they're seeing some of the worst temperatures at night over the next few days. -2 on Sunday, -4 on Monday. So it is going to be rough in the temperature department, even though you're not seeing any snow until that Wednesday system. And finally, Central Mountains, Sunday and Monday with the scattered, very isolated snow. Wednesday and Thursday with the worst of it like everyone else. Temperatures not as bad as the Tetons, but still single digits at night. So it feels like winter out there, but it doesn't look like winter out there.
And a few good days to drive across the country.
Oh,
no snow.
Yeah, we're avoiding that just barely.
All right.